How we doing? Good evening, good afternoon. How are we all today? George, Flander, Isaac, Dino, Ralph, KF, Dan, Iffy, Yo Yo, Money Mouse, Jacob, Asa, Caleb, Shane, Barry. How we doing? How we doing? Yes, on this Sunday, June 1st, the transfer window is open. Technically. As clubs look to make deals for the Club World Cup. Cunha has been announced, and on we go. Lots to discuss today, isn't there? Never ending, but also a little bit slow. A little bit slow. Um, Good day, everybody, but good to see you all here. One down, six to go. Big up community. Yes, sir, Jonathan. Um, yeah, it's a big it's a big day. It's a big day. Lot of stuff happening. Lot of stuff happening today. 150 million, Bruno, or nothing. He's gone. How you doing? I'm good. I've spent a couple days. It's the weekend, so out at the pool in the sun, having you know the good time out there with all of that. So enjoying myself. Been busy. Tired, tired as well. Kids had a camp out last night, and that was exhausting. But it is a little slow, though. I do have a few things to discuss today from my side. Information wise, and where we are at as of now. I do have a few things to discuss that we will get into. So I hope everybody is doing well on this Sunday. Did I miss anything major of note? I don't think so. But how was Casa Bonita? Casa Bonita was good. Um, was this the fastest signing in ages? 1st of June, we already have one. It's certainly up there. It's certainly up there. It is certainly up there. While you're filing in and coming in, please make sure to like the video, like the stream on your way. Always helpful for me. Will it be a long live? Maybe, maybe. I mean, we'll see. I can never predict the variability of how long I will yap for. Sometimes I feel the need to yap and never stop yapping, and sometimes it's a little bit shorter. But I have some subjects to discuss today. I have some subjects to discuss today. Um, of course. The main things I want to talk about are Cunha. I want to talk about Bruno's situation again. We'll talk about Mbeumo, as I have a little bit to share there, a little bit new to share there. Um, I want to talk a little about Kobbie Mainoo. I want to talk a little bit about the overall squad and some of the other plans that we have. So a few things that are actually of note. It's hard at times to try and keep bringing something a little bit new each day, but I do have a few things that I think are at least informational for today to share on this. Um, so yeah, let's get right into it as we do, and then if anything comes up while we're talking, then so be it, and we'll discuss those things as well. Um, but thank you all for being here on this Sunday, and let's start with Cunha. Obviously, we all knew this was happening, and but it is good to see it announced on June 1st with the window open. Um, I'm assuming that we're going to get a more thorough video later on. Obviously, we will. There's been pictures taken, you know, things like that. So I'm sure we will get a longer, more thorough, detailed announcement, as it usually is. We tend to do this nowadays, where we get these first um, initial. We've signed a player, it's been agreed, it's pending, and then once these other things are done, once all that happens, we get the big deal, the pictures, the announcements, the shaking of hands, all of that kind of stuff. Um, so yeah, probably, and maybe with the new kid. Is he officially signing on 1st of July for PSR? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. The only thing is that like technically you pay wages the moment you sign the player, as I understand it. So maybe we don't need to. Um, but look, everybody's going to be on holiday for a bit here, you know. There's obviously work that'll get done at the club. But we have a solid month, my guys. Like we've got a solid month at least until everything is like moving. Tom, evening James, looking like Bruno's gone, which I think is massive for the rebuild. There's a bit of noise around Sheshko. Any merit to that? We could talk about that in a minute. We will definitely talk about that in the Bruno section as well. But yeah, we've got a solid month, you know, with the Club World Cup and everything going on before people are returning, and all of that. Um, Bruno deadline passed again. I know. The deadlines are funny. So, regardless, Cunha, it's a great signing. Nothing changes that. It's still the best signing. I think in a long way, in a lot of ways, it's probably the best signing we've made. When you consider the price, the value, the fit, the likelihood of instant impact, I think it's probably the best signing we've probably made since Bruno, to be quite honest. I know he hasn't kicked a ball for us. But you really do know what type of player you're getting with Cunha. You know the experience that he brings, the fact that he really wanted United, the way that he's essentially fits right in and all of that. It's such a basic like, yeah, that signing's gonna work. You know what I mean? It really is like that. Obviously, we have to wait till he plays, but on the point of sensibility, on the point of sensibility, um, that's kind of the point. On the point of sensibility, I think it's the best signing that we've made in a while. Anthony Clapham, James, yes or no? Sell Bruno 100 pound? No, I'm not selling him for 100 pounds. That's not very much money. We can't buy much with that. No, but you're saying 100 million. I would say I think we should try to push it to 120 personally, especially because you know if they're willing to do whatever it takes, then push them to the limit. Push them to the limit. But this is certainly the signing where I've looked at it and said, yeah, I mean, this one is going to make a difference. This one's going to make a difference. This one fits. Like we don't even have to question it. It's going to do exactly what you want it to do. It's a direct, straight upgrade on what was in the position before, and it's a direct. It's just a player who's already doing it. So Cunha, done deal. Nothing more to discuss. We just hopefully we get these signings done so early. It's kind of funny. I was just thinking about this just to yap for a couple more minutes, then we'll move on to Bruno and I'll talk about all the questions on Bruno because obviously this continues to be the big one, right? Cunha, like we in summers past, we we'll sign players later on in the window, and then there's all this hype around them. Cunha's been done so early that, and then people complain we don't have time in the preseason, we don't have time for players to get in. But when we sign players so early like Cunha, alternatively, you get this sort of narrative like we're not doing anything, that are like summer's bad. Like it's June 1st and we've probably made our best signing of the summer, I'm not going to lie. So no matter what we do this summer, I think Cunha will be our best signing. So, but it's like the hype's almost died because it's been done for like weeks. But that's okay. We want to see him kick a ball, and when we see him play for us, I think we'll see the difference that having Cunha in the team makes. Jane, that looks like a good one, a good misspelling. Um, The new left back signing too. Yeah, and that's true. And I'll talk about that in the more plans section about some of the things going on there. All right, fine. I get it. You guys want to talk about Bruno, I think. Everybody wants to talk about Bruno, I think. So what has happened today um, is, obviously, as I said before, from my perspective, um, Bruno is from everything I've heard, everything really does come down to him and his decision on this because of the point where, of course, any signing is, or sorry, any player is having a sort of price. So, just in answering the question, like when people are asking, hey, well, do the club feel like they can get better value in replacing the squad or in building the squad with or without Bruno? That's what the price is about. That's the price that they take and say, um, yeah, all right, that's where how much money we will need to feel like we can build a better team, right? So it is interesting, in that respect. Um, we know that it's not really going to come down to the club. What Fabrizio said is, of course, that he's back in England. His agent is back in England. Um, he's back in England. His agent is back in England. Um, and now it's time to make a decision. Um, Now it's time to make a decision. That he's talking with everybody, and really they're going to be having to make those kind of calls. Now, obviously, the reports from Saudi are that, and from people like Ben Jacobs and stuff from the Saudi side of it, are that the discussions have kind of gone better over this week with the Saudi side. And so it seems like he is closer to making that call. And again, the thing about it is that, you know, it would be so easy to put this to bed. This is the point I've made since the beginning. I said day one after the final that it is now being newly considered for real, and they are really thinking about it, right? And that was the information I had. And there's been nothing that's been putting this to bed, every talk, every further conversation, everything leads more and more towards, you don't engage with this without wanting to. And as I've given the example a million times before, if someone approaches your wife and says, hey, you want to go on a date? And she says, where would we go? My friend, you're in trouble. And that is where we are at today. Um, you know, Someone's asking Bruno on a date, and he's trying to find out the details, the pickup time, where it's going, who's paying, what the person does for work. um, that kind of tells you all you need to know. In the words of the great Celine Dion, my heart will go on. If Bruno sold, the club will always live on. 120 million would make it easier. Um, yeah, you kind of know what's going at that point in time, and that's the situation that we're in today. Um, that's where we are right now. So no, no, Shatters. That's when they ask for a loan. um, but we only have an ex-wife. Then you know exactly how this goes. But at the same time, of course, United are the ones that are going to have to then say, how much can we get from this? How much makes sense to us? And if Al Ali specifically are willing to do whatever it takes to make this happen, then we should be asking for more, I think. I don't think 80, 85 million is enough for sure. I think 100 million I probably wouldn't turn down, but I would definitely like them to ask for a bit more than that. I mean, even if it's add-ons or something, like 100 million plus 20, 100 million plus 25. Um, they're not gonna Al Hilal. What I get it? Do I get it mixed up? I don't know. Anyway, 150 is not gonna happen. 150 is not gonna happen though. Like I get what people are saying, but at the same time, like it's not gonna happen. So move on from that aspect. I know it sounds easy to just ask Saudi for as much money as possible, but it's not gonna happen, guys. I'm telling you that much. I know for sure that they won't pay 150. That I can tell you. But I do think we can get 120 out of this deal, perhaps. I do think we could get that happening. I think 120 is going to be fine, um, because they have money and they want the big name, but they do also have alternatives. Okay, they can turn to other players. There are other players they'll throw money at. When you're talking about 150, then they have to consider we could buy three guys for the price of Bruno potentially. Um, so it would be kind of silly. Um, So yeah, pounds, yes, and in pounds, not euros. I would go for that 120 in pounds. No, the negotiation is starting at 100. United should say, look, let's get some add-ons, let's get some more. But yeah, look, hey, if they want to do a package deal, Casemiro, 1 year left, just cover his wages, it would help United, truthfully. But I don't think that that's on the table at the moment. I don't think that's on the table at the moment. So. But they did say, I know Fabrizio says they'll pay whatever it takes, but obviously there's a reason to that. There is a limit. There is a limit to that. Not that I don't believe it. I'm saying, but there's obviously a limit to that, and I don't think that that limit is 200 million or something like that. But yeah, look, I mean, if you were to ask me today, I do think this is happening, really. I mean, it's to the point where you'd be foolish to think it wasn't, right? Because if we were not to use an analogy, but if you were talking in reverse, if we were seeing reports about Mbeumo meeting with us weekly, talking with us weekly, looking at accepting our offer, very interested in the move, um, just as finalizing decision, we probably would think he's joining. And this is even more than that, frankly, in the reverse because of the situation. So it really starts to feel like it's happening. There's just no doubt about that the you can't it, you'd have to be denying honest thoughts to think it isn't anymore. And yeah, I mean, it feels like it's happening. Al Hilal are prepared to pay whatever it takes, and the conversations are ongoing. And yeah, but I do want to repeat again, it's never going to be a situation because Fabrizio also said Bruno is going to talk with the club now. It's never going to be a situation where he talks to them and they say, "Yeah, we want you to leave." Okay, that's not when it's going to be. However, it's very likely to be a situation where he says, "This is what they're offering. I'm considering it. Do you want this to go?" And they'll say, "Look, for the amount of money that they're offering, if we can get that, then if you're open to moving, then we do feel that, obviously that would be good, or it would be a win for all parties involved at that point in time." But it's a challenge, man. It's a challenge. It really is. It is definitely sad in a way, beyond when I argue over the logic of it, because I'll be sad about any players that I've liked for a long time that have been here, and that have contributed to this club for a long time. It is sad in that respect, but that doesn't mean it's not right. That doesn't mean it's not the right thing. Would like an agreed fee with Mbeumo or Gyökeres before Bruno's sale. Right. And that is a good point, Jonathan. Now, there are a couple of things to be considered with that. In the case of Gyökeres, as far as Fabrizio has reported a few times, they do have a pretty much an agreed upon fee that he can leave for. So we probably can't get rinsed, but you know, yeah. But I don't disagree with your I don't disagree with your point there, and I think it's the right way to think about it. Red Dragon 001 sent 5 memberships to Be Cool. Andreas Nielsen S. Soundtrack Me DJ and Step Hen Welch, Stephen Welch, I guess that is. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for that gift and all of that. But yeah, I would tend to agree. We need to move on. Thank you, Red Dragon. We need to move on the deals that we're going for and have them lined up ideally in order to make this all work and be ready. Now, one of the points I want to discuss on this um, is that I get the very much get the concerns over things like, well, how are we actually going to replace him? Do we trust him to replace him? But I don't. But the problem you have there in that kind of discussion is that um, the way that they operate in the market, right? If we have the money, we're likely to do the same thing. Maybe not the like obviously money changes who you can afford, what you might be able to do. Um, what what is that? Oh, someone just someone just anyway. I'm not sure that's what I said. Um, anyway, whatever. Um, that's fine. Just something I said I think was taken not exact what I said. But yeah, the point being, Kaylin Lee, if Bruno's agent's talking to United, surely that means he's given them the go ahead to leave the club. Probably. I've been aggregated very badly. Yeah, I saw that. You can comment on it if you want, otherwise I'll get to it in a minute. But yeah, what I'm saying is that the concern over the replacement of Bruno, um, the amount of money we have can obviously change who we might be able to get, but the plans themselves don't particularly change in a large respect. Bosch sent 5 memberships. Thank you for that. To Red Dragon. There you go. Henrique, Raf, Scott, and Chet. If that's not some instant positive karma, then there you go. Um, all right, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on. I just have to send a message to correct this now because that's not what I said. I don't like it going like that. Okay, we'll move on. But thank you, Bosch. Thank you for that. Appreciate you very much for that. Um, but yeah, anyway, we have to replace and whatever money that we have, is essentially the next 100 million that we spend is going to go to the same kind of people. It's going to go to the same players essentially, whether we buy it or whether we don't, whether we have the money or we don't. The next chunk of money that we spend is likely going to the same people. Dwayne, I've had a week to think about this and feel prepared to see one of my favorite players go. Did it with Rashi and Wambasaka. Now I'm prepared once again. Yeah. I mean, that's I've prepared myself because in before the final I was not prepared for it. And then after the final I prepared myself for it and now I'm accepting of it. Matt, love the content, James. Keep it up and send us money to the club for Mbeumo. I don't know that I feel strongly enough to send them my money, but no, I appreciate you. But regardless, whatever we're going to spend with the money now is going to be spent. Like I know that the way that people think about it. I know the way that people think about it. I know that people think like, well, okay, if it's Bruno's money is going to, um, if Bruno's money going to this player, then I don't want to sell him. If Bruno's money going to this player, then I don't want to sell him. But that's not really the way that you have to think about it from the outside perspective or even from the inside perspective, because you're not looking at it that way. What you're looking at is we have a plan to fix the squad. These are the top players we want to get. These are the best players we can get. These are all the positions by order of priority that we want to sign players in. This is how that's what we're trying to do. However much money we have, we're going to get as far through the plan as we can. If we can get more money, if we can get more money, then we want to get further into the plan. Then we want to do more of the plan, right? So whether Bruno stays or goes, the plan is essentially the same. It's just the money. We can do more of it. And that value, and the wages saved too, by the way, is quite significant, is them saying, all right, we feel we could do more with this. So, that's their feeling. So regardless of that, either the plan is good or the plan is bad. You know what I'm saying? Whether we sell Bruno or not doesn't change that. The plan is either good or bad. The players we're going to buy are either good or bad. The direction that we're moving in is either good or it's bad. What they want to do will either work or it won't. And whether we buy or sell Bruno won't change that. And so I guess the only difference, the only difference that I would say in all of this is that if it doesn't work out, maybe Bruno helps us limp along in the top half most summers instead of, or into the top 6 or something like he has many times before helped carry us to, versus being worse off. But from my perspective, I don't really care about that anymore. Michael Damon, Juve signed CR7 at 33 for 100 million euros. Madrid signed Hazard 28 for 100 million euros. So I think 100 million pounds for Bruno is reasonable. Different market back then, but still, I agree. Yeah. My point being is this: I don't really care about it anymore in that respect, right? Because sixth, like we can't. I guess here's what I'm saying from this perspective. I don't really think anymore that us being a consistent team that can occasionally get into Champions League in that purgatory is worth anything. I just don't care anymore about that. It's Manchester United. If we're going to be in purgatory of a team that is occasionally top 6, occasionally top 4, is that really much different than being in 10th to 12th to 13th? It obviously is, but not for Manchester United. It doesn't really matter anymore, does it? Like, are we gonna? I don't want to sit in that position. I will lose interest in football if it's another 15 years of sitting in purgatory. Like it's so hard. I probably won't ever stop watching, obviously, but I can't do this for 5 more years of our ceiling being the mediocre and that being the aim and it being okay that's where we end up. Andre Bogdan, that would be a great strategy if we could do transfers all year round, but we can't, so we'll probably start the season with an incomplete squad. Why? We've got plenty of time. It's only June 1st. We also would have money for January. Adewale, the Bruno money could potentially bring in 2 players who are part of the plan that wouldn't have been here to come with Bruno here. It's better to get this rebuild started and sell Bruno. Sure, I understand that. That's not me saying, by the way, that Bruno is the reason we can't get up there at all. Not even a little bit. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that obviously the ability to fully build their plan and go for broke is it. So I'd rather, if we have a plan to get back to the top, Project 2028, whatever, those are the owners we have. Those are the people we have. Those are the people running the club we have. Omar Barada and Wilcox and these guys. Those are the guys. They're there. They're the ones making the plans. You can like it, hate it, doesn't matter. But if they have a plan, I'd rather sooner see them execute that plan and know whether we're getting there or not than I would limp along forever, taking multi-year longer and longer and longer to get this deal done, to get that plan in place. That's really, really my point on the matter. And so, you know, it's like, okay, if we sell Bruno and it doesn't work, and that, what does that mean? Well, okay, so if we end up being mid-table again, what's the difference, man? Um, what's the difference? At that point in time, um, it just doesn't mean anything to me. If we're like not getting, if because we've been doing the same thing for such a long time, that it's just ultimately very boring. Means relegation. I don't think that's true, by the way. I think the relegation talk is not just nonsensical, it's absolutely and utterly ridiculous. Um, because firstly, like what it, I get what people are like, oh, we could have been relegated this season. No, we wouldn't have been. We didn't even play our main team. We threw like 8 games in a row in the Premier League because we were in Europa League. Like people keep ignoring that or not acknowledging that, but it is a literal fact. We played kids and alternative players in the Premier League for like the entire last 2.5 months, and we still ended up at 40 points, which is supposedly safety. So if you go spend 200 million, you're not gonna end up in that situation. Sammy, how much do you see us spending excluding Cunha if Bruno goes? Another 200. Another 200. Yeah, another 200. Stuart, another 10 gifted memberships to the community. Thank you so much, Stuart. McNally, Tristram, YUFC, Philip, Victor, Alan, Neil, Madan, Deviled Red, Abirat, and Rado. Thank you very much for that. It's like we prioritize the Europa League. We weren't going to get relegated. And if you look at it anyway, the amount of money that we'll have to spend, that's not the budget that teams get relegated on. It's like, again, if that's going to happen, then that's going to happen anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like if we spend 200 million and get relegated without Bruno, you realize that there's no point following this football club anymore. Right? Cuz that means we are so bad. We've managed to spend the money so bad that we get relegated with 200 million in the bank. And that's just, to me, that seems impossible. I mean, if you look at the teams that get relegated and what they spend on transfers in general, right? They spend usually significantly less with a team that was in the championship than that. So I would add that we also would likely have space to spend money in January, should we need to do something to help us in the January window. Because technically, even though we shouldn't, you could spend a bit more to bail yourself out because of the PSR space it gives us. The frustrating thing for me is how 12 years of recruitment failure under Woodward Arnold is being intruded to the new structure. Last summer we had Ten Hag with a veto as well. Yes, we did. And it's hard to explain how that might have affected things even last summer. CMDM rumors gone quiet. Any news? Well, here's the challenge on that, and then I'll move on from the Bruno section and on to Mbeumo, and then we'll do some other things here. Is Bruno a 10 or an 8? Right? We've had this discussion. Hold on one second. All right. Yeah, sorry. That is a little bit of an issue. Like I was saying the other day, if we do not sell Bruno, what does it look like we're doing? It looks to me as though our approach this summer is to go for a striker and a 10 and move Bruno into the midfield. And then we don't really, unless we sell in Casemiro, unless we can move Casemiro, we really don't have the money. We don't have the money nor the space to buy midfielders this summer, barring some sales that are, leaving, which we're not expecting at the moment. Don't you think Ugarte is better in the A position? I mean, it's an interesting point. I think that in an ideal world, Abirat, yes, because Ugarte is not a sitter, and it's one of those things where it certainly gets misprofiled. You need, if you are playing Ugarte, you definitely want two high energy, high pressing midfielders that can run down the team, run down the opposition, win the ball high, and do things like that for sure. So that they're working together in that sense. Yeah. And in a way, it's more like 2 8s than it is like a 6. How far apart in ability are Ederson and Hackney or Emerson? I feel like you meant Ederson and Hackney KF. I don't know. They're very, very different. Very, very different players. They're very, very different players. Yeah, Ugarte likes pressing on the front foot. He has the best counter pressing stats in Europe, and that's where you would want him to be in a similar way to Fred, I always would say. But I think Ederson is probably, I don't know. They're very, very different players, Ederson and Hackney. Phil Moorcraft, thank you and welcome to the Pro Muppet. So, yeah, that is a part of the challenge here. But there's other. I'll discuss some things in the Kobbie Mainoo section as well. Let's move on to Mbeumo, and I can talk about some of that. So obviously, I've been trying to keep up on this one pretty strongly in terms of where we are going with Mbeumo. I think there's been some reports today that I think overnight, pretty much everybody was confirming, of course, that Bryan Mbeumo is a significant target for us, right? Everybody's been talking about it. It's been on everybody's list that he's like the main guy we want to go for in the 10. And that is totally the case. We've held a lot of discussions with him. And so obviously we've been kind of behind. We've been kind of behind on this a bit, potentially behind Newcastle, and everything else. That's essentially those clubs. Not Arsenal though. We're not behind Arsenal on this. Arsenal had made an approach, but as I understand it, that was not going anywhere. But as I can gather it now, it looks to be more shifting in our direction, based on my understanding, at least a little bit more. From what I talked to on more closer to United's side, or more in that direction, I would say there's more positivity on the feeling that talks are going well for United. Let's put it that way. Like there's more feeling that the talks are going well for United. So United are feeling, I think, a bit better, I wouldn't say they were ever feeling bad, but they're feeling, I think, more confident that they could get something done here. I wouldn't say like that it's a done deal. I'm saying um, that it's or anything like that. Like it's not confident like they had with Cunha, but they're feeling like it is improving. The chances that they have are improving on this. They're still going to have to be able to move on it, you know? There's competition. So I would say it's moving just a little bit forward, to where maybe now I put it, I was pessimistic on it, but now I probably put it at 50-50. Balancing out that on United, they might feel it's better than 50-50, but on the outside, I'm still not so sure. So I would say I'm putting it closer to maybe soon it'll lean in our direction, that we would start to get him. So it's progressing. It's not going backwards. We're not being rejected. It hasn't been killed. The biggest thing I would say is we definitely need, and I might have more on this tomorrow or the next few days. This is just what I was getting today, or actually last night, more from United's perspective, or at least from more on the United side of things. Um, so hopefully we hear more, and it continues to progress and go in the right direction. That's what we need from it. But additionally, the money factor could accelerate things here, right? Like one of the decisions that still has to be made right now, regardless of where we're at on Mbeumo, is what happens if we don't get him. Or sorry, let me rephrase that. What happens if we spend all the money on him, or if we spend the money on a striker and we don't have the money for him? We still have to consider that factor. Like, how do we want to spend our money this summer? Because we still need more sales. We could do it right now, but then we're capped. We're done for a while until we get some more fees. You know what I mean? Until we get some more sales, until we get some more money coming in, until we get some more other stuff. The backups and alternatives that were named, I think, in a lot of articles overnight, aligned with the ones that I heard, which was, correct me if I'm wrong here, because there was a few articles last night and today and this morning that were what they said Tyler Dibbling, right, was like the main alternative there. I saw one say Callum Hudson-Odoi. That's obviously like a very, very cheap one. And then Semenyo was the other one. Semenyo, Dibbling, and Mbeumo would probably be your three main targets for this position. I think that that's fair, but they're not necessarily any cheaper than Mbeumo. So it's more, if we were to lose to Newcastle, we would go for, then we'd have other options there. But at the same time, we still have that problem, which is with the amount of money it's going to cost, it'll be hard for us to do other business without further sales should we pull the trigger on that. So this is one that's maybe a little bit on the clock. If we have the money, then I think we'd want to go hard in for Mbeumo to push it through over the next few weeks. Because we can address other things as we go on, through the window. The number 9 situation is viewed as more, but this is where it's funny, and this is where they have to be flexible. Excuse me, and where they have to do a good job. The striker situation was more important to us. The striker situation was more a higher priority to us, but we might have more time on the striker. We might have more time on the striker to go for the players and not to worry about anything. You know what I'm saying? Like we might be fine. The Alvaro sale, it seems like there's some negotiating on the part of Madrid and them, so we do need them to sort that out so we can get some money. Semenyo plays on both sides. We were looking at that the other day. He definitely plays on both sides, and he's very, very two-footed in that respect. So I do think he fits. I understand. He's played, if you want to look at the numbers on that, by the way, he's played left midfield 11, right midfield 10, left wing 9, right midfield 9, or sorry, right winger. So he's really, really, really half and half. He'll do whichever, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. He can be in the middle. Um, he can be in the middle. Semenyo is a good player. The price to me is still exorbitant, but he's a good player. Why can't United just break the rules and deal with it down the line? What's the worst that can happen? Relegation, Jason, relegation. Because think about it in this way: everything United does is looked at through such a bigger like lens, a more scrutinized, more criticized lens than anybody else. If we go break the rules blatantly, I promise you we'll be slapped with some absurd, like, unheard of special punishment, you know? And it's like, it's dangerous. It is dangerous. Even a transfer ban could be absolutely devastating. You know, we can't afford a transfer ban. It would be worse than a points deduction. We need, we need to rebuild this team. We can't afford to do that. Um, so yeah, there's ways that they can prevent it. Um, I think Semenyo does have similarities to Garnacho, but he does it all a lot better, essentially. The same as Rio getting slapped with a bigger punishment. Yep, 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 yep. The rules will always be more different for United. But yeah, so it's still we're still moving on this. We're still moving on this Mbeumo thing, and I'm feeling a little like I would say today it might be the closest deal. That doesn't mean it's close, but as far as the understanding that we've got, it would be the closest that we have to something else serious getting done. Um, so that's good, right? That's good. Now, unless we have a sneaky thing all lined up with Jokeres behind the scenes, which I'm not ruling out, by the way. I'm gonna give you just pure conspiracy theory bit on this. All right. Sometimes I get a conspiracy-y feeling, and it turns out okay. Sometimes it doesn't. But sometimes I just get a vibe. Okay, so this is just purely a vibe. All right. Um, this is purely on the vibes that I do wonder to a degree if we haven't got some kind of thing from Jokeres like he's gonna join, but we need time. Um, because we really want him, and we want to be able to spend our money elsewhere, and we also may want as much money. Purely an opinion on this, but I mean, there's just feelings, man. There's just feelings that like I don't know. I just have feelings like because we had conversations and it like advanced suddenly, and then it's been so quiet on that front, and it's been so hidden. But I know how much they wanted him. I'm not even sure he's waiting for us. I'm saying like I believe that I believe it in my heart of hearts, okay, that there's something more to this Jokeres situation, and that there's other clubs looking at him, but that just may be a part of them doing it, and that's why so many clubs are looking at him and then looking away. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, oh, Arsenal want him now, Arsenal aren't going him. Chelsea want him now, Chelsea aren't going for him. And everybody like goes for Jokeres and then bounces off. And one way that would be possible is if Jokeres is being cool or cold towards many clubs making inquiries because of where he wants to go, and he's just giving us time. I believe it. I believe it. I believe it. I believe it. I have some hope. I have some hope in my heart. Um, that we could get this, that we could do something for this. Um, but I also think that I hope you're right. Me too. Me too. I just have a feeling. I just have a feeling that there's something more to this. That's all. I just feel there's something more. But it's also like, hey, we want to get a lot of our these other deals done, and we might have more. Like, let's say we knew we could get Jokeres if we go for him. Let's say we knew it. Then we can work on these other deals. We can work on the ones where there's more competition. We can work on this ones where we need to move quicker. We can work on the ones where we can get them done before we sell, and then after we sell, we can get Jokeres in. So I just have I don't know, man. I just have a feeling. I just have a feeling deep in my bones. Um, because again, weeks ago when and it was weeks now, turned and said, maybe we should go bigger than Delap. I brought that. I knew they were thinking beyond Delap. And I knew that from an informational standpoint that they started thinking beyond Delap. They made contact with Jokeres. They did a bunch of stuff. I'm sure that they have plans. And then the Mbeumo stuff kicked up big time before Delap made his decision. You remember the Mbeumo stuff really picked up before Delap made his decision. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, things are moving a little bit forward on Mbeumo. I wouldn't be surprised if we do press on this soon. If we get the money, we might press on it really, really quickly. KF hallelujah. I believe, I believe, I believe. So we'll see. We will see on that. Kobbie Mainoo. I want to talk about Kobbie Mainoo. Just a little thing here, a little bit of an update, a little bit of a, you know, a little bit of talk, a little bit of yap about this to a degree. If you will allow me to. So for most of the season, I have said they do not want to sell Kobbie Mainoo ideally, right? He is not someone that they want rid of. And after I said that originally in January, Michael Damon blinked twice if Jokeres is James. Jason Hanna, James, is it true United are looking for around 40 million for Garnacho? Surely that can't be true. A little bit more. A little bit more. A little bit more than that. Vinay, are we also in for right wing backs? Need reinforcement in that area, surely. I think it depends when you're talking about people like Semenyo, if we end up moving for them, or Dibbling, that they could both play in those positions. But Dallow's going to play a lot, and so is Ahmad out there. So I'm not so sure. And Dorgu can play over there too. You know, if Diego Leon or Amas is still in the team next year. Alejandro's reply to Bruno's Instagram post is telling, I think. What was it, if you don't mind? And then let me continue with my train of thought. Stop it. Stop. Anyway, my point on it was, I said back in January that as far as I'd heard, they really didn't want to sell him. They opened up contract talks and had continued them throughout the season. Mentato too, yeah. And Camison looks pretty good too. Got a lot of players there. And we'll talk about that in the next section, all these youth. They wanted to keep him. They opened up contract talks. They want to go on from, they want to keep working on that. Obviously, they hadn't yet reached agreement. We see discussion over it back and forth, things like that. But the idea was to keep Kobbie Mainoo. And one of the other aspect to this idea has been, and I know this essentially now as of discussions from last couple of days, that the idea continues to be the club want to assist with and work with Kobbie on improving strength, conditioning, these aspects of his physical game, because he's got good numbers, but in the game he seems to struggle a little bit with a few things that have been mentioned or caught by the coaches, that we've all seen. They want to just improve on him in general, and give him time to continue to work and find his place in the team. and they're willing, and they want to have direct plans on that. Okay, direct work on that, to um, yeah, improve on the athleticism, improve on the long-term conditioning. Essentially, is the main thing, conditioning, and that might include explosiveness and things like that, so that he can find his way into the team. And somebody, and stamina is a part of that. And somebody, because of the talent that he has, that would be the best route. And that is their ideal plan. Improve upon things, improve the physical levels, improve the conditioning, improve the stamina, all of that, and then with that, he can find his place in the team and ideally then play a lot, and a new contract will be easier. Um, I'll get to that in a second. Thank you for that. His body's still growing and all that, but somebody made a good comment to me. All right. Somebody made a good comment in the Discord about this aspect, and I think that what that was, what they said, which I liked, is the difference about the difference of how you treat these young players, how you platform the young players. When you look at especially this thing you guys are posting, which I'll talk about in a second, on Garnacho, how he was thrust forward, made to believe he's a superstar already, and you can see that it's not the best thing for a player's attitude, a young player, for the way that they act and the way that they're going to be around the club, for them to be constantly shoved forward and as the next big thing by not just the club, but the manager, the fans, by everybody, and constantly indulging in that and feeding into the ego and things like that. It is okay for a young player to, even a very talented one, to be a bit more reserved, to help them find their place in the team without shoving them forward, that they have to be a star from day one. I think it's better. And this is essentially the approach that it's going. He's a young player. Let's just work on improving him, not thrust him into the limelight and bank on him being a star. And it's a very different approach than where we ended up with how we dealt with Garnacho. Um, and, and I think it will have much different outcomes, ideally. Now, look, some of this is down to Kobbie Mainoo as well, of course. We don't need a new contract right now. We have a few years. We have a few years on the contract still. But if Kobbie is willing and committed to that, and I'm not saying he is. This isn't even the slightest suggestion that he is. If he is not too star-headed, starry-eyed to believe he's already a superstar, which people need to be careful of, because I'm not, again, not a comment that he is, and it's not about him being underrated, overrated, doesn't matter. Point being, he's so young and has played so little in actuality in his career, in a team that hasn't been that good, that we can just let it be. And as long as he's willing to let it be and just grind, improve, find his place, and stick with it, then it's all going to work out. Obviously, there takes two to tango, but they don't want another situation like Garnacho's, how it's gone with Garnacho. They don't want that. And I think that that's fair. I think I think the Garnacho situation, we can blame him, but it's also a really poor example of thrusting players into that position. We were moving Marcus Rashford out and getting into this giant war in the fan base about Rashford versus Garnacho when it should never have happened. We shifted Rashford out of his position, regardless of his struggles, to accommodate Alejandro Garnacho, and the result was awful. The result was even worse, and what it did to the ego and all of that. We just don't need to do that. We just don't need to do that. If they're good enough, great. And if they're already performing at an exceptional level and they're all perfect, great. but there's always things to improve, and as long as young players are willing to improve and take that slow road, then you take that slow road. Sometimes you can do it really fast, and sometimes the slow road is the right way. And I feel that Kobbie Mainoo is one where the slower road is the right way for this to happen. So that's my feelings on the matter. But essentially, yes, from an informational perspective, United want to continue working with him, improve him over the summer, and and help to improve some of the maybe the weaknesses that he does have at this point in time. By the way, while you all are still here, 1,700 people, 262 likes. Please add some more likes, throw some more likes on the video, all of that, add to it. Like it while you're here. I appreciate you all, but let's see if we can do 500 or something like that. That would be nice. So yeah, that's the story with Kobbie Mainoo at this point in time. I see there that you guys are talking about Alejandro Garnacho, and so we can talk about more plans because obviously this is some of the sales that we will likely need. Added a dislike. Thanks for the reminder. Thank you. But yeah, look, the other side of this in talking Garnacho and the options to go are one, obviously, a lot of talk of Napoli with Antonio Conte staying. Big plans for them for summer. Yes, smash the like button. Slam your face into the computer screen. Take your phone and just. That's what I need. Okay. But yeah. A lot of interest from Napoli. The interest from Chelsea, I think, is kind of interesting because I think the player himself would like to ideally stay in England. Garnacho would like to stay in England if he can. I knew there were at least 3 English clubs interested. So if one of them is Chelsea, and then the second one now being reported is Aston Villa, there might be still another one. Aston Villa would make a hell of a lot of sense to me. Unlike Rashford, the wages won't be a problem. Though he would probably get better offers from elsewhere, wage-wise. But it does fit the team. And then now outside of England, Leverkusen, right? So maybe, perhaps, Erik ten Hag wants to bring him in, wants to bring him back. The third club is Sunderland. Actually, be a pretty decent road, but no. I would say that the Leverkusen would obviously make a lot of sense, but they should end up flush with a lot of money here soon to go rejoin Ten Hag where he wanted to platform him so much. Then so be it. Matt Pearson, these videos have helped me through some hard times on a personal level. Thank you. Well, thank you for being here. So yeah, look, I think 50 million is what we're gonna try to go for on this. And I think we can get it. There's enough interest, but we'll have to see what his will is and what the wages being on offer are going to be at this point in time. If I was going to try to go Napoli, yeah, it seems like would be a smart move. Siddharth Sen, welcome to the Pro Muppet. Thank you for joining. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they want Garnacho and Antony. I do not know, but it would be really nice if Mr. Ten Hag would give us some money back after all the money he spent that we have to replace. It would be nice. Thank you for everything, mate. Thank you, Ramon. Thank you. Yeah, I think Germany would be a good move very much. I think Leverkusen could easily be one of the best moves for Ten Hag, but also for just the German league for the way that he plays. I want to talk about Cheeto for a moment too, because in addition to Kobbie Mainoo, Cheeto is one they want to really work on this summer. He's obviously come a long way, maybe even faster than they were expecting. I shouldn't say maybe, definitely faster than they were expecting. Cheeto was never supposed to really play this season for the first team, but now you look at him on he's made some good appearances. He's shown that he's good. He's shown that he's not quite maybe ready to, let's say, to start as the leading striker, of course. But when you look at like what happened with Heaven and what's happened with him, there's a lot of positives with Cheeto, Obi Martin, um, on this. And if you look at like the postseason tour and the games being played, you'd be hard pressed. I mean, in my mind, I don't think it's extreme to say we've seen better play from Cheeto in the final couple months of the season than we have from Rasmus Højlund when he played. Now, playing every week under the pressure, all of that is different, so he should be protected. But he is literally already better at many things than Rasmus Højlund is. He is. He genuinely is. And so there, Heaven is already like well come through. And as far as I understand it, Aiden Heaven is the biggest reason why we won't probably sign a center back this summer. The biggest reason. He's so good and they like him so much that they plans to sign a center back have mostly, I believe, been shelved. I mean, if we end up with tons of money, maybe we go ahead and get to it anyway, but have mostly been shelved on the basis of Aiden Heaven, what he's done. But yeah, I mean, it's not controversial at all. I think everybody would pretty much agree that we've seen more from him in this time, and that makes it an incredible one. And what I wanted to say on this overall is we haven't gotten enough time to utilize the youth in this coming year, in this past year that has occurred, even though it is something Ruben Amorim wants. And if you look at his talk on the postseason tour, what did he compliment? The kids, right? The young guys playing more, doing more, coming into their own. A lot of praise towards some of the younger players and what they're doing. But because of the pressures of everything where we were in the table, but also kind of the immediate pressure to try to win Europa League, things like that, it was hard to integrate as much youth into things in the last season. And also I think some of the players, he never had a preseason to work with them, right? He never had a preseason to test them more. And so in this coming preseason, it's definitely a priority of Ruben Amorim to test quite a few more of the young players and see if there are ones he can definitely integrate into the first team this coming season a lot more. Now, they might still be deep down the depth charts and things like that. However, again, aligning with the idea that they would like to move on a lot more players and sign fewer. And as I hear it, they would like to balance it. And I do think once again we can reflect on Liverpool for this as a route that they did it pretty well. But what they would really like, and as I hear it, what a Ruben would want, is to ideally get a few very good senior players, and then the other signings being more like your Aiden Heavens, these younger, profilable, moldable players who are good, who have talent, who have drive, who have all of that we can see more of, that we can play more of, that we can that we can do more of. So that's kind of the idea. So we can have fewer signings, obviously with less time, fewer games, all of that, and then balance it with getting some more of these younger guys in, and then balancing that with in the preseason, filling out the squad with any of the young players he really likes that he thinks can have a place in this team. So yeah, I mean, I haven't really gone through the entire squad itself, but you could easily see I don't even know how many seniors we have left after free agents, but if you also consider Sancho, Anthony, Rashford, Garnacho gone, I think we're down to like 17, 16, 17 senior players. You could certainly see a couple more being sold or being on the cusp of leaving. If you end up with 16 solid senior players and then a few young guys and a few academy guys, then I think that's probably the aim this year, to have 16, 17 solid first team players with 3, 4 youth, and then they will get minutes and they will get minutes and they will get chances um and all of that. So yeah, they were really impressed. He was really impressed with some of the young players, and also definitely is hoping that now with the preseason he can really evaluate it and get a chance to see more of them. Amarim had a lot. We spoke about this when we started, right? Amarim is a huge proponent of and has done a lot with promoting youth players when he did at Sporting. Um, but the same story. He needs the summer to evaluate, to see them, to do more with them, and then get them in. There was just too much going on in this season for it to be done as much as he would have liked. And even still, you could see we started getting Amos into the team towards the end. Even still, we started getting Fredrickson more into the team towards the end. Even still, Cheeto got into the team, right? So it's not like we didn't do it. It's just even that it took a while to get to that point, and we want to do even more than that um, as well, and really get a good picture of who can make it and who can't. Um, so, but they have to be good enough, I would suggest, to fill out the 17 to 20 range where they can come on as a sub and make an impact. They have to be good enough for that. I think Cheeto's good enough for that, right? Who else is good enough for that? So it's a big part of their plans for this summer as well. Big part of Amarim's plan for this summer, and definitely on Cheeto in particular, we want to. They want to do more work with him to encourage him and hopefully, you know, not necessarily speed up the process, but assist in the process so that he can get to where he wants to be. That he can be a part of the team, because we need more strikers. We need more strikers. So hopefully, come summer, we will see that. We will see more of that, and then see them more involved in the first team next season. But again, I don't think we're going to see 5, 6, 7, 8 young players come through. I always say I don't think they're that good. We need to balance things out, but there are a few good talents in there, and if he can nail down 3 or 4 that can contribute regularly, then that would be the ideal plan. Chances Amarim switches to a 4-3-3. It would be like the chances I'm invited to the Qatar embassy at this point, honestly. Not gonna happen. But regardless, that's where we're at today. What else? Anything else that I've missed that I didn't explain, or that we want to yap a little about today? Goalkeepers, I got nothing new there beyond the same thing. Pedro Gonçalves, anything in the links? I think it's nothing major, nothing serious. More chance of me voting for Democrat. I'm banned from the region anyway. Next captain. If Bruno leaves, Maguire would probably be the captain for a bit. Casemiro will be captain for a bit if they're still here, obviously. Garnacho post? What Garnacho post? Did he post something on Instagram? I don't see anything, my dude. Who was talking about us looking for an 8 on loan? I saw something about that, but I don't know what that was. Thoughts on Sheikh Jassim? So I don't really understand that Telegraph piece, by the way. I don't think it was accurate. And I'll tell you why. Because you had this confirmed by Mike Keegan just what 6-7 days ago. Immersion ruined. Good lord. 6-7 days ago, no renewed Qatari interest in Manchester United. The group remains scarred by previous experience at the hands of the Glazers. I am wearing shorts. Yeah, it's hot. So the article from yesterday sounds like total bullshit to me. It's very very easy after PSG win the Champions League to somehow bring up Qatar and United again. Clickbait, outrage bait, nonsense. They're not interested. There's nothing in this. Any PSR deals with clubs in trouble you'd like? Is anybody in trouble? I mean, Leicester, scarred by the Glazers, scarred by not being able to prove your funds, I guess. Clubs in trouble. I mean, sure, I would still throw money at like Morgan Rogers, Aston Villa, but the Garnacho comment on Bruno's post, he just was chanting, Bruno, 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 or something like that. I don't know. That was about it. Villa kind of needs some money, don't they? That's what my understanding was. God, sorry, it's hot. It's hot. I'm just having to like stretch for a second. Um, I'll still wait for something a little more solid on that ownership stuff. But again, as I've said before, I still do understand that, you know, we'd like to that there's talk of doing something more before the summer is out. So when I have something solid, I'll talk about it. Yeah, PSG, it took them 15 years. So if we're gonna have this whole love-in for Qatari ownership again all of a sudden, then we've got 13 and a half more years for Ineos to win the Champions League to match Qatar. Okay? So you're giving them a long leash there. I think they should be doing a hell of a lot better than that. Villa are fine, they're sell to buy, sure, but then maybe we could buy and give them, and they'd have to have some big, you know, um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they get some big PSR benefits. They had sweet teams during. It's easy when you don't have to compete in the league ever. I mean, the crazy part is that what team was closest to beating PSG? It was Aston Villa. Aston Villa were the team that was the closest to beating PSG during the knockout campaign. And if Unai Emery had not taken off Marcus Rashford at that point in time and killed all their momentum, who knows? I mean, it was damn close at one point. It got really, really close. There were a couple crazy saves from Donnarumma away. You know, it is easier. It genuinely is easier when you do not have to play the toughest teams every single week. The Premier League is different gravy, man. And I think that the biggest takeaway from the final that I got is just how bad Serie A is. All that love affair for McTominay. No offense to Scott, but there's no wonder he could score so many goals. Serie A defenses are so bad. I mean, the speed that they move, like I don't know, it's just I remain extremely unimpressed with Serie A. Yeah, Arsenal did beat them in the league phase too. I remain extremely unimpressed. I feel like La Liga washed right now. You know what I mean? Um, what if Ederson's that bad? Maybe, man. I've had second thoughts since yesterday about that. You're not wrong. Jaggies, when will we hear about talents like Heaven and Obi? What do you mean hear about them? What do you mean hear about them? I feel like La Liga is washed. I feel like Serie A is slow, old, all of that. Um, the Bundesliga for me feels like um, it's a league where it's always been the Sanchos and things. You can't trust the attackers in there. Um, League One, the French league, to their credit, I will say, it's definitely a league that plays at more intensity, like that plays with a lot more intensity. Um, in the French league, like it has a much higher level of intensity. Even if the quality top to bottom isn't always there. Um, oh, we hear more talents like Heaven and Obi. Probably a little deeper into summer. Probably a little deeper into summer. I think that the French league does translate well because it's more intense. But that's also why I think Portugal translates well, because they are both leagues where there's a lot of intensity and a lot of physicality. Just regardless of the quality, there's a lot of intensity and physicality. And to be fair, there, like that PSG team in the midfield, like you can call them technical, but they outworked the shit out of the Serie A midfield as well. They outworked the absolute shit out of Inter's midfield. So yeah, I mean they're fantastic players, but they also are insanely hard workers who play at a super intense level. That PSG midfield, like the intensity they play at, it shocking to me how intense they play. Very very impressive, actually, really really impressive with that. Um, much more than I thought. Yeah, championship is intense too. Yeah, yeah. But no, look, I do think it's easier when you don't have to really build a team to play in the league every week because it's a lot like easier. I think it makes it a lot easier to build the team for that. And even still, it took a long time to win Champions League. But I think that's genuinely why the Premier League teams have not been so good in Europe for such a long time. They've not been the best often, is because you have to build a team for the Premier League. Sometimes it's hard to translate that into Europe. Um, but I think Klopp did the best at it for the most part. Thanks, Gucci Lucci. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that was a pretty impressive performance, though. To be quite honest, that was really good. I think the plan on the goalkeeper situation is probably, I mean, to sell either, but probably sell by India, um, and get a new goalkeeper coming in. Shoot, sorry, what was I saying? Is Enzo coming on the I don't think he is. I don't think he is. I think he's gonna go to on that loan right away. But hey, if we don't get a striker, maybe he will. I think Diego Leon should end up on the tour. But if we don't get a striker, maybe Enzo Canabiak will come on the tour with us. See if we can, you know, see if we can do something on. I don't think it's players we were afraid to pull the trigger on. It was players that we couldn't attract at the time. Yeah. Yep. 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 Yep, yep. That is true. You thinking Garnacho for only 40 million? I think 50. I think 50. To be fair though, like let's not just for a moment pretend that PSG built that team like Moneyball. No, I mean let's be real for a second because I've seen some of that and that's just not true. They have like one of the highest wage bills in Europe, miles ahead of anybody else in their league, and have spent buckets and buckets of money on transfers in the last 5 to 10 years, and the majority of them haven't worked. But when you have infinite funds and the ability to constantly retool, and you don't particularly have to compete in your league, then it is easier to end up with the right people. They've made loads and loads of mistakes along the way to getting there. I do really like Kang and Lee there from there, though. I think he's a good player if they get Master Antuonu. Um, yeah, Brentford's Moneyball. PSG is not like it's not like it's that clever, to be quite honest. Like the biggest thing is that they just went a bit smarter and stopped buying stars to try to carry them and just built a lot of good players. Yeah, the highest wage bill in Europe and spent 600 million. So they bought plenty of players that didn't work, but they've still spent a vast, enormous amount of money. Yes, I do agree. The thing they did right is to dump the Galacticos thing, and that's fair enough. But it's not like they still didn't have the biggest budget and the most money to do it, to accomplish it, and to rinse through players that some worked, some didn't, until they hit on all the ones that worked by just spending enormous, enormous amounts of money. Um, yeah. Um, I mean, the smartest thing they did was let go of Mbappe, to be quite honest. Um, that's the smartest thing that they did. Was let go of Mbappe. Favorite part of Arsenal not winning a trophy again? Yeah, I mean that Alex is always good news. Always good news. All right. So what am I thinking here? Because I'm gonna end this just in a minute. Yeah, the biggest stories obviously continues to be now Bruno as we're closing in, hopefully, on a decision at this point in time. By the way, no, but it's true though. Like if you go watch clips from last year and you watch Mbappe pressing and how he assists the midfield and the press and things like that, or doesn't, compared to like Dembele and the other players that they have, it's night and day. It's night and day that you need everybody pulling together, putting in the effort more than anything else in order to pull this thing off, um, to win games. And you can't carry passengers in your team when you're trying to build teams like that. You cannot carry passengers who don't run, who don't press, who don't do the work. Um, but yeah, Joshua Xerxes lover. So anyway, let's I'm gonna end it here. Obviously, any updates on Bruno will be a huge thing. I'll continue to update on Mbeumo piece by piece as I hear it. If there's anything growing or happening there. And then if any of our Yokerish feelings work out, we'll see. And then obviously we'll keep a close eye on some of those other sales, Garnacho, Anthony, Rashford in particular. Okay, thanks for hanging out today. Thank you for relaxing with me on this Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening. Um, Almost 10 o'clock in the UK. So yeah, appreciate you all. Be back tomorrow. Video, podcast, United View, red carpet, lots and lots every single day. Okay, guys. See you later. Thank you all. Make sure to like the video on the way out. We're almost to 500. So please, if you can help us get there, just 75, 80 more on the way out. Thanks so much. See you all